and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's start with a quick check of the top headlines this hour. Iran protests have killed more than 500 people as unrest spreads nationwide. Authorities detain over 10,600 people in the region. US President Donald Trump said the US military is reviewing very strong options on Iran. He added Iran sought negotiations but warned action could precede talks. Cuba rejects Trump's ultimatum, stressing sovereignty and vowing to defend the country. Trump warned the island to make a deal or lose all Venezuelan oil and financial support. US Homeland Security will send hundreds more officers to Minnesota after protests erupted over an ICE agent's fatal shooting. Secretary Kristi Noem says deployments protect federal agents as nationwide rallies continue. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Russia must show interest in peace after Kyiv agrees on the peace plan. She adds that Ukraine's armed forces and coalition will ensure security and support recovery. United States will press G7 nations and key partners to move faster in cutting a reliance on China for rare earths. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says urgency is critical to secure supply chains. ISRO will launch PSLV C-62 carrying 16 satellites including DRDO's Anvesha and India's first orbital AI image laboratory. Alright viewers, let's start with the top focus. Now, US President Donald Trump has posted a digitally altered image on Truth Social declaring himself the acting president of Venezuela. This post follows a US military operation in Caracas in which President Donald Trump announced his forces carried out large-scale strikes and captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro along with his wife, flying them out of the country. The operation was a part of escalating pressure on Maduro's government. This is in fact breaking news now coming in. Donald Trump putting that post out on social media. It reads, Venezuela is releasing large number of political prisoners as a sign of seeking peace. This is a very important and smart gesture. The US and Venezuela are working well together, especially as it pertains to rebuilding in a much bigger, better and more modern form their oil and gas infrastructure. Because of this cooperation, I have cancelled the previously expected second wave of attacks, which looks like it will not be needed. However, all ships will stay in place for safety and security purposes. At least $100 billion will be invested by Big Oil, all of whom I will be meeting with today at the White House. Thank you for your attention to the matter, President DJT, Donald J. Trump. That's the post by US President Donald Trump on his Truth Social. That's breaking news updates, viewers. Let's now move ahead. Now moving on, according to US-based rights group Harana, deaths from 2 weeks of protests in Iran have risen to more than 500. Meanwhile, the Iranian government has declared 3 days of national mourning for martyrs, including security forces killed in 2 weeks of protests. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has urged people to take part in a national resistance march of nationwide rallies to denounce violence, which the government said was committed by urban terrorist criminals. Meanwhile, Reza Pahlavi, the ousted son of Iran's Shah, has urged the Iranian government workers and security forces to join the protest movement against the Islamic regime. He has also stated that he is prepared to return to Iran at the first opportunity he gets. And I welcome Adrian Kalaman, who is a terrorism scholar, to join me in this discussion. Thanks very much, Adrian, for joining me here at NewsX World. What's your opinion? Is this an appropriate time for Pahlavi to make a re-entry in Tehran?
First of all, good morning to you, Kriti, and to all your viewers. Good to see you again. The question was about Tehran. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if this is an opportune time for Reza Pahlavi to re-enter in Tehran when the country is raging with protests. Do you think he will be able to yield the dividends that he might be seeking to?
I don't think that now's not prudent, obviously. He's been top of the assassination list since 1979, one of the individuals and one of the few that they haven't gotten to. And he's heavily protected in the United States, so it's not the time for him. But I would say that if you listen to the chants in the streets, if you listen to the diaspora, I do think there is one unifying voice, and that is, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. And the reason why is because he's one of the only noticeable, recognizable figures out there. People understand that he has stayed out of politics. He did not want to. He's not a person that really He doesn't want to grab leadership. That's not who he is. He's a person that wants to see the regime to fall. He wants to see a democratic transition. That's what he wants. If he can oversee that, then he said, I will be that person. Because if you look at resistance movements in the past, you really do need a leader behind a resistance movement. And without a faceless leader, and just the sun and the lion and the sun flag, that it doesn't really connect to the past the way Reza Pahlavi does. And his message has been very strong to the Iranian people.
What do you think about the death toll that has now been released by the US? It says that 500 people have been killed. This is significantly different from the numbers that are emerging from Iran.
I would expect that number is higher, actually. The numbers are always going to be underestimated, underreported inside the Islamic Republic. U.S. is doing its best to try and identify through sources what the actual number is. We have to remember back in 2019 when they shut off the internet for roughly 6 hours, they slaughtered 1,500 people in the course of roughly 6 hours, and then turned back on the internet, and it was just carnage. So the internet has been shut off, and the only videos that we get are by Starlink that has been smuggled into the country.
All right, Adrian, do stay on with me as we proceed ahead. Because let's also tell you that US President Donald Trump has stated that he considers potential military action against Iran amid mounting reports of deadly crackdowns against the country's mass anti-government protests. Trump has also stated that he planned to speak with billionaire Elon Musk about restoring internet in Iran. Meanwhile, Trump is reportedly scheduled to be briefed by senior officials in his administration on January 13 on specific options to respond to the protests in Iran. According to reports, the meeting will be a discussion about possible next steps, including military strikes, deploying secretive cyber weapons against Iranian military and civilian sites, placing more sanctions on Iran's government, and boosting anti-government sources online. Let's in fact listen in to some of Trump's comments.
It's starting to, it looks like, and there seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options.
All right. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stated in a post on X that his country is closely monitoring the events unfolding in Iran. He has added that Israel supports Iranian people's struggle for freedom and strongly condemns what he called the mass killings of innocent civilians. He stated that he hoped that Iran would soon be freed from the yoke of tyranny. Adrian, I request you to join me back in the discussion here. Now, both Netanyahu and Trump are speaking in a similar tone. Of course, Netanyahu has earlier as well criticized. But let's talk about US here. Do you think it's a good time for US to topple this anti-American regime in Iran?
Quite frankly, I don't think there's been a better time. If you look at the miscalculations that the regime has made since October 7th, 2023, they've lost Hamas, they sacrificed Hezbollah, the Houthis, we know where they are, they can be targeted. There's a little, I would say, a stalling action there. Assad is gone, okay? He's got the Iraqi proxies left. So, this is what I'm seeing from the United States. This is not just maximum support. You're seeing from the first term. Now it's time to, I would say, ratchet it up a little bit, and that's what we're seeing. And a lot of it we don't see, thankfully, because it's helping the people that are on the ground. But I do think that the United States. And this is what the Iranian people have wanted. Back in 2009, all they wanted was Obama to say he stood by him, and he didn't. And then we were silent during the 2022 protests, during the Masoud murder. There were some, some comments, but no action. So now we're seeing where the U.S. And we also have to look at the Islamic Republic's military after the 12-day war. Khamenei's entire military leadership has been eliminated. His closest advisors are gone. And then you have to look at the ballistic missile program, the nuclear program, which they're trying to rebuild, and he's lost all the proxies. So he's lost the leverage. And the United States, I would appear, and Trump sees this, that the regime has never, ever been weaker. And now is the time for the Iranian people to take back the country. They just need some help, a little bit of help.
Sure. Trump has also now issued, in fact, a very important statement. He's saying that he is, in fact, in touch with Iranian people. How much do you think is this a threat for Khamenei?
I think it is a bit of a threat, and I think it's also letting him know that he's talking to people on the ground, that he's in communication with opposition leaders. Obviously, a lot of them are political prisoners that are locked up, but there's also, a very strong opposition leader sitting in D.C. So, Trump is, he's very good. He's the first president in my lifetime, and I've lived through the entire Islamic Republic, that has had an actual policy to deal with the Islamic Republic. He's the only one that has. Everybody recognized that it was a problem. And then all of a sudden we had the Obama administration come along and they turned it into a nuclear file and a nuclear issue, when really we're looking at a regime that has brutalized the people for 47 years.
All right, then, Adrian, thanks so much for joining me in this discussion. With that, viewers, we're now going to proceed. Now, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has reacted to the Minneapolis shooting of 37-year-old Rennie Good. He has stated that the innocent mother of 3 was executed by ICE. He has added that the U.S. administration labeled her as domestic terrorist, while President Trump called it self-defense. He's added that in Iran, police officers are being killed by actual terrorists. Araghchi has stated that Iran has proof that the terrorists have been called Mossad agents by Mike Pompeo, former U.S. Secretary of State and CIA Director. He said that the U.S. would never tolerate the kind of violence that is ongoing in Iran. In fact, I request Adrian to join me back here with his comments. All right, I'm told Adrian has left the conversation. But for now, viewers, that's the latest that's coming in, and we're now going to move ahead. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned Cuba to make a deal with Washington or face consequences after the U.S. moved to halt Venezuelan oil and financial support to the island. The warning comes after a U.S. raid in Caracas earlier this month that led to the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, a key ally of Havana. Venezuela has long supplied Cuba with crude oil, helping power its economy and electricity grid. The Trump administration has since stepped up seizures of tankers carrying sanctioned Venezuelan oil, deepening Cuba's fuel and power crisis. Cuba's leaders have rejected the pressure, saying the country has a sovereign right to import fuel without U.S. interference, and insisted no foreign power can dictate its political choices. Matthew Wadham, who's an American journalist, now joins us from Washington, D.C. Matthew, thanks very much for joining us. What's the latest that you're picking up from Washington as far as actions on Cuba are concerned?
Well, not clear what the Trump administration is going to do about Cuba, but President Trump issued a threat on his social media site, Truth Social, saying that Cuba better get its act together, that Cuba better make a deal, his words, or it would face the consequences. We don't know what those consequences are, but Cuba should take it seriously, especially with the vast armada of U.S. forces that are parked off the shore of nearby Venezuela. It's not that far, to go from. It's not that difficult to go to sail those ships from Venezuela up to Cuba in the Caribbean Sea, and Cuba is under pressure to make a deal with the United States. Now, presumably, Cuba doesn't have any oil wealth. Cuba imports. It's the main source of its oil that it imports is Venezuela, and Venezuela is cut off. So it's not clear specifically what Trump is trying to get them to do, except maybe to disband the regime there, which the United States has been opposed to ever since it seized power in whenever that was, in 1959 or 1960. It has always been against the communist regime in Cuba, and maybe, and I suspect Trump wants the government there in Cuba to step down and allow democratic elections and to become a normal country again. Obviously, Cuba is resisting. It's not going to just do that on its own, but certainly Trump has ways of applying pressure to Cuba, and taking away their oil is certainly applying a lot of effective pressure to Cuba, and they're already hurting from this. They need the oil, and they have to have it somehow. So to feed what's left of their economy after after more than a half a century of a socialist economy. Cuba is a poor country. It used to be a wealthy country, used to have one of the highest living standards in the world, it was a very successful country. And then Fidel Castro took over, and it became an economic basket case where, tyranny abounds, people inform on their neighbors, and all the infrastructure is collapsing throughout the whole country, especially in places like the capital city of Havana. Buildings fall down there all the time from neglect, because the government can't run the country effectively, and it is falling apart. So, maybe Trump is offering a deal to allow these people to the dictator and the junta that controls the country to get out, and before he has to take some actions, which could be an invasion of Cuba, though that didn't turn out so well when President John F. Kennedy tried it in the early 1960s. But he could apply some sort of pressure and it's not going to, and the maybe he could do military strikes against certain locations. It's not clear what those would consist of, but there are other ways that he can apply pressure. There are already sanctions in place against Cuba.
But how do you justify Trump acting as the big boss of all these less mightier nations?
Well, if they were peaceful, free countries, I might have a problem with it. But Venezuela and Cuba are not. They are, communist dictatorships.
Yeah, but it's not for
brutally
Trump or for the US to ensure law and order in those countries. Why is the US acting as the international judge? And with whose authority?
I think you're phrasing the question, you're asking the wrong question. The U.S. doesn't need international authority. America is the world's preeminent superpower.
That doesn't make it the international judge of any country, does it?
Well, you're asking.
Well, that's the criticism that's coming in from almost every other country in the world. So the U.S. will have to answer these tough questions.
No, it won't. No, it won't. The United States is not subject to any court. It doesn't recognize the authority of the International Criminal Court in The Hague. It does not have to answer these questions. It is a power unto itself, and it can do these things. If other countries don't like it, they can protest. They could launch their own embargoes. They could
All right,
complain.
that's an absolute violation of international rule of law. That's very evident from your statement. Matthew, please do stay on with me as we proceed in the next discussion. Moving ahead, viewers, hundreds more federal agents are being sent to Minneapolis. It has been announced by the Trump administration following large-scale protests over the fatal shooting of a woman by an ICE officer. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has said the deployment is intended to protect ICE and Border Patrol personnel as operations continue. The move follows the death of 37-year-old Rennie Nicole Good, who was shot inside her vehicle during an immigration enforcement action on January 7. Federal authorities have maintained the shooting was carried out in self-defense, while Minnesota officials have disputed that claim, citing bystander video. Tens of thousands have marched peacefully in Minneapolis, with protests spreading nationwide. Both state authorities and the FBI have confirmed investigations into the incident are now underway. I request Matthew to join me back in the discussion here with his comments.
Sure. Okay. What is your question?
Please do go on with your first assessment and first comments of the latest developments as far as the Minneapolis investigation is concerned, and then we'll follow with some questions.
Well, the police officer and a immigration and customs enforcement agent fired his weapon at Renee Good, a woman who his video that he produced showed. There are other videos as well, but his video is the best. It shows up close that Rennie Good was
all right. What makes this video
bumping him with her car?
How do you say this is the best video, the one that has been released by the agent, and the others that have been previously released by Rennie's family or the bystanders? Are they showing something that's not there?
A lot of the other videos are shot from a farther distance away, and so it's harder to see what's going on. But they do not, the other videos present a less clear picture of what was going on, but they do not disprove the Trump administration's argument that statement that the ICE officer was trying to defend himself when he fired into Rennie Good's vehicle, killing her. So No, I don't think anyone has produced any video saying anything otherwise. It's just that the ICE officer's video is the best evidence that we have so far. And there are investigations going on that will examine the evidence. So, but right now it looks like the ICE agent was justified in his actions, and it's unfortunate that this woman decided to rev her engine and to start driving, and this was at the request of her wife, who said, "Drive, drive."
But Matthew, won't you say anybody who is under threat would do that as a natural reflex?
How was she under threat? She wasn't under threat. She was the one.
She was killed. She was fatally shot. Does that not make her under threat enough?
She wasn't scared. She said in the video, in the last few seconds, that she wasn't afraid. She said she wasn't angry at the ICE officers. She wasn't scared in the parts of the video that we've seen. She decided that she needed, for whatever reason, to move the vehicle forward, and she bumped the officer. It's very clear, and he, it appears, believed that his life was in danger, and so he fired at her. So, I don't think she was afraid. There was no reason for her to flee the scene. The officers, the ICE agents, told her to get out of the car because she was interfering with an immigration law enforcement operation. And in America, you don't always have to do what police officers tell you to do. You can refuse to cooperate with some things. But when they order you to get out of their car, it is almost always a lawful order, and you have to obey, and she did not.
But we've seen many such instances when officers have asked innocent people of color, to, exit a car or make such commands, and then those people have unfortunately lost their lives. Many such incidents have surfaced earlier. Matthew, I just want to bring that to your attention before I let you go, because that's all the time that I have in this discussion.
All right.
And we move ahead, viewers. Thank you, Matthew.
When they behave badly, they...
And moving ahead, viewers, ISRO is set to open India's 2026 space calendar with the launch of the PSLV C-62 mission from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. The mission will place the EOS N1 Earth observation satellite, also called Anvesha, into a polar sun synchronous orbit. The countdown began on Sunday afternoon, marking a key moment for the PSLV after its last flight in 2025 was aborted due to a technical issue. The 260-ton rocket is scheduled to lift off at 10:18 a.m. on Monday. Along with Anvesha, the mission will deploy 14 co-passenger satellites from India and international customers through ISRO's commercial arm, New Space India Limited. More than 2 hours after launch, ISRO will also demonstrate the re-entry of a technology capsule from a Spanish startup. This will be the 64th flight of the PSLV, reaffirming its status as the backbone of India's space program. And with that news, we wrap up this bulletin on NewsX World. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.